Cyberpunk is defined as a genre of science fiction that focuses on a combination of low-life and high-tech. Cyberpunk games deal with outsiders, or punks who fight against the oppressors in society, your big corpos or whatnot, via technological means or cyber. The phrase gained traction in the 80s, and today we are going to travel back in time to look at the best cyberpunk games that wired the 80s and 90s. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone watching to like, share and comment on the video. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to always get the latest Marvelous Gamers videos. With all that said, let's get started. Robotron 2084. Starting off at number 1, we have Robotron 2084. Robotron was a 1982 twin-stick shooter arcade game developed by Vids Kids and released by Williams Electronics. In the year 2084, humanity created Robotrons, an advanced species of robots intended to help mankind. The Robotrons, using their infallible logic, determine that the human race is inefficient and must be destroyed. When will humanity learn not to put that feature in robots? You played as a genetically engineered superhuman on a mission to rescue the last surviving humans from relentless waves of killer robots. There are multiple waves, or levels, each having a variety of robots that you have to kill, such as grunts, tanks, and brains, that you have to shoot with your cannon. There are some human family members in waves that grant you bonus points for rescuing them, but there are certain robots that can turn them into enemies or even kill them, so hurry. Like most arcades of the era, the game is ultimately unwinnable and there is no real ending as such. One writer stated that the last line of defense, like all the others before it, will fail and the robots will rule 2085. While there was no way to finish the game certainly did provide endless hours of entertainment, and you could set the highest score possible amongst your friends for bragging rights. Kind of like Subway Surfers, but with robots. The game was a commercial and critical success, spawning a sequel the next year called Blaster. Major Havoc. Next up, at number 2, is a game from Atari Inc. Major Havoc, or The Adventures of Major Havoc, was an action game released in November 1983. The player controls Major Havoc, the leader of a band of his own clones that were created to face off against the evil Vaxian robots. In the lore of the game, the Vaxian Empire overran the galaxy. Most of humanity was enslaved and abducted, though some scientists managed to escape and create the clone army. Now, despite the Vaxian Empire falling since then, the robots still travel the galaxy continuing their orders. You play as the titular character, Major Rex Havoc, in the game. There's 2 phases in the game. First, a shoot-'em-up style phase where you operate the Catastrophighter, Major Havoc's spaceship, as you face off numerous robot ships that defend enemy space stations. Second, a platformer-styled phase where Major Havoc gets into a space station to sabotage its core. There are breakout games that allow you to skip levels and earn bonus points. Originally, the game was intended to have a grand finale where you were supposed to travel to the Vaxian homeworld and destroy the final reactor. However, due to development time constraints, this ending was never coded into the original arcade version. The game instead just cycles indefinitely through the final, most difficult levels. Despite being a complex and unique vector-based game with innovative features, the game was unfortunately criticised for the expensive dedicated cabinet. Narc. Moving on to number 3, we have Narc, the run-and-gun game developed and published by Williams Electronics. It was one of the first ultra-violent video games and was frequently criticised by parents for the game's use of blood, gore and mature themes. The game dealt with drug cartels and featured realistic violence and mature themes. You can probably make the case that Narc walked so that Grand Theft Auto could do a successful drive-by. The player controlled either Max Force or Hitman, the primary protagonists. Their objective was to arrest and kill drug offenders, confiscate their money and drugs, and defeat the antagonist, Mr. Big, who was the head of an underground drug trafficking and terrorist organization. You fought the enemies with an automatic rifle and a missile launcher, which exploded enemies in a torrent of scorched and bloody body parts. Wicked awesome. The game would award more points at the end of a round for arresting enemies without killing them, if points would matter to you in such a type of game. The arcade version of the game used a medium resolution monitor, which meant better resolution, but a smaller screen. The game was pretty well received by critics, and was even ported to the Nintendo Entertainment System, albeit a thoroughly sobered-up version with no drug references. Xenon 2 Mega Blast. We're going wavy and weird, brother, with number 4. Xenon 2 Mega Blast was a 1989 shoot-'em-up game developed by the Bitmap brothers and published by Imageworks for the Amiga and Atari ST computer systems before being ported to other consoles like Game Boy and Sega Mega Drive. The game took place 1,000 years after the events of the first game. It sees the return of the original antagonists, the Xenites. They seek revenge for their previous defeat by planting a series of time bombs at various points throughout the history of the universe. You control the space fighter Mega Blaster, which is tasked with travelling through 5 different eras and stages of evolution. A massive boss character must be defeated on each of the 5 levels to successfully defuse the time bomb. Despite primarily being a single-player game, Xenon 2 allows for intermittent multiplayer as well. There is a variety of collectible tokens that can be boosted by destroying capsules throughout the levels. Destroying enemy ships gets you the in-game currency, real cash. Not big on irony back then, I guess, which is used to buy and sell the collectible tokens at the Crispin's Swap Shop. The home computer version of the game was a critical and commercial success, with animation, brilliant sprites, and innovative colours getting the bulk of the praise.
Bingo!
Smash TV. Next up, at number 5, is one of the most innovative games of the era. Smash TV was a 1990 twin-stick shooter that was developed and published by Williams Electronics for arcades. The game took place in a dystopian television game show in the then-future year of 1999. There were dystopian themes borrowed from contemporary movies like RoboCop and The Running Man. It predated many censorship concerns and featured contestants being blown apart in a deadly game show setting. Here, 1 or 2 contestants shoot up an oncoming horde of attackers while going about collecting money, prizes, and various temporary power-ups. After clearing an arena of adversaries, the contestants would then choose an exit, each leading to a different room. At the end of every level, one room would have a boss battle. The prize of survival was cash, and prizes such as VCRs and toasters, because if there was one thing that a desolate 1999 requires, it is entertainment and toast, I guess. The game included some very bloody effects and graphic violence. The dismemberment of cyborg boss enemies was visibly bloody and detailed. Detonating the hidden mines in the arcade version would result in a shower of bloody chunks and limbs. This gruesome game was every teenager's edgy fantasy adapted to a game. The game was critically praised for its groundbreaking use of gore at the time, and at one point, it was one of the greatest arcade games of all time.
Cyberlip.
Cyberlip. For number 6, we are going a little bit weird. Cyberlip was a run-and-gun game released in arcades by SNK in 1990 for the Neo Geo MVS. The game revolved around 2 soldiers named Rick and Brooke who fight through waves of malfunctioning robots and aliens. In the year 2016, a space colony named CO5 was established to solve Earth's overpopulation problem. By 2019, the colony has been converted into an android stronghold, and a supercomputer named Cyberlip is built to manage the androids and combat an alien threat. However, some androids begin to malfunction. Over a decade after its creation, Cyberlip has gone rogue and commands its armies of androids and aliens to attack the human colonies. The gameplay involved your normal space gun, but you can find and use other weapons such as flamethrowers and rocket launchers to destroy the enemy. Ammo was limited, so the usage had to be rationed. There were 7 stages in the game, which would have to be chosen by going through the right doorway or getting caught in a precarious extra level. The last two were part of a two-part final boss level. After that, hold on to your horses because this game featured a surprise twist ending when, after beating the final boss, spoiler alert, the soldiers realised they were manipulated by an alien into destroying humanity's defences, unknowingly paving the way for the alien invasion. The game additionally had a two-player co-op as well, so you could enjoy destroying robots and aliens together. The game was fairly popular with the critics, and the twist caught everyone off guard. The Combat Ribes. Next up, lucky number 7. The Combat Ribes was a beat-em-up game released by Techno Japan Corp for arcades in 1990. The game's story follows 3 heroic cyborgs known as the Combat Ribes who fight street gangs to take down their corrupt organisation. The trio consists of Berserker, the balanced fighter, Bulova, the strongest but slower fighter, and Blitz, the fastest but weakest fighter. The game takes place in futuristic New York City, where the Combat Ribes discover that the various street gangs have united under a single powerful criminal syndicate. There are 5 gangs to be defeated, each being a level on its own. After defeating the 5 gangs, the final battle is a boss rush against all the previous gangs while chasing a big crime boss in the harbour. But when you finally corner him, he is killed by the female cyborg Martha Splatterhead, the former member of the Combat Ribes, who then becomes the final boss. After defeating her in the arcade version, the Combat Ribes leave her behind on the dock, but in the Nintendo port they take her with them to save her. Combat Ribes was pretty successful commercially, though the game was criticised for the story being a little too weak. Alien Storm. Moving on to number 8, Alien Storm was a beat-em-up shooter released for arcades by Sega in 1990. The game's plot was relatively straightforward. Earth has been attacked by a race of shape-shifting extraterrestrials, and only the Alien Busters can stop them. Like Ghostbusters, but for aliens, the Alien Busters comprise of Garth, Karen and Scooter. Garth carries a lightning gun, Karen wields a flamethrower, and Scooter is an electric whip-wielding robot. The side-scrolling gameplay is similar to that of Golden Axe, featuring the heroes moving through city streets, using their weapons and close-range attacks to destroy aliens. Some levels do switch to a forward-scrolling format, where the character automatically moves and shoots at incoming aliens, sort of like a horizontal shooter. The arcade version of Alien Storm features 6 missions, though later ports expanded that to 8 missions. The arcade version had a mid-boss that transformed into 3 different forms as it took damage, and the final boss was a giant brain, which you must destroy from a first-person perspective. The console port of the game featured more bosses and expanded the mid-boss battle across 3 separate fights. Despite its similarities to Golden Axe, the arcade game's use of multiple gameplay modes was praised, as it was rated as one of the best beat-em-ups of all time. Night Slashers. Next up, at number 9, is Night Slashers, a beat-em-up arcade game that was developed and published by Data East in 1993. The game's plot centered around monster hunters fighting a supernatural invasion. The protagonists, a team of monster hunters calling themselves the Night Slashers, must stop a demonic king named Zaratz from turning the world into a kingdom for the dead. The team members were Jake Hunter, an American monster hunter with cybernetic arms, Christopher Smith, a European vampire hunter and martial artist, and Hong Hua Zhao, a Chinese martial artist with mystic powers. The side-scrolling gameplay had enemies appearing from both sides of the screen and from out of doorways or entrances set into the background. The heroes must defeat all of them to progress to the stronger boss battle, so that they can move on to the next level. The enemies consisted of zombies, mutants and monsters such as vampires, werewolves and even elementals. The bosses included a mummy and lookalikes of Dracula, the Grim Reaper and Frankenstein's monster. Each of the 3 playable characters has a unique ending after defeating Zaratz. The game could also be played with up to 3 players in a co-op, it was received pretty well, both commercially and critically. Shadowrun SNES Penultimate Number 10 was an RPG made for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Shadowrun is a cyberpunk fantasy game that was made for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1993. It was an adaptation of the tabletop RPG game with the same name. Set in the year 2050, the game's plot is loosely based on the novel Never Deal with a Dragon, which was written by the game's co-creator, Robert N. Charrette. You control the protagonist, Jake Armitage, a man suffering from amnesia after having been critically wounded by assassins. Shadowrun has chapters that function as major progression points instead of traditional levels, with the story progressing by speaking to waitresses at doors to buy money or karma, and warp to these later stages of the game. The gameplay often requires you to have sharp reflexes, as practically every screen contains hidden assassins who open fire on Jake from the most random locations. Shadowrun features various weapon categories, including pistols, submachine guns, shotguns, and melee weapons, which can be purchased from arms dealers. Beyond handheld weapons, some of the most potent weapons are cybernetic implants. These include cyberdecks for hacking, cyber-enhanced reflexes, and cyber-enhanced weapons. All my Cyberpunk 2077 fans know how fun that is. The game was both a commercial and critical hit, winning various awards, including Best RPG of the Year. Battle Circuit. And finally, at number 11, we have a Capcom classic. Battle Circuit was a 1997 beat-em-up arcade game. Set in the future year 2020, the game follows a team of 5 eccentric, super-powered bounty hunters who must retrieve a valuable computer disk and defeat the criminal gang that possesses it. The arcade cabinet for Battle Circuit provided support for up to 4 players at a time, with each player controlling one of the 5 possible characters. The character names were quite amusing: Cyber Blue, Captain Silver, Yellow Iris, Pink Ostrich, and a weird creature known simply as Alien Green. The heroes must confront the disco-themed Delete Gang, who have acquired a floppy disk containing a malicious computer program called the Shiver System. Battle Circuit features 7 main levels, plus a final boss battle. After the final boss battle, the ending saw the group hand the disk over to Harry, their employer. But if you manage to get a high enough score, you and your friends are given the option to fight a secret boss, the living embodiment of the Shiva system, the master program. Defeating this powerful entity earns the team a bigger reward. The game was a hit with fans of the beat-em-up genre, with the unique characters, absurd humour, and deep combat system praised, making it the perfect game to end our list with. Marvellous verdict, and that was our list for today. How many of these games have you played? Which was your favourite growing up? Did we miss any games? Comment down below. As always, please like, share and comment on the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be the first to be notified of all things marvellous. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.